I play a lot of tactical RPG or deck builders. But what's different in Grand Guild? Let's find it out. The core of it is the very fast turnaround in battles. You'll often find that early game means turn 1, and mid-game means turn 2, and that's very much to the game's advantage. Rather than single, long battles with slogs full of back and forth healing, you'll do larger numbers of more tightly paced battles. A good team clicking together will make that fact clear very quickly, and it means that you'll have a chance to try out a lot of different variations and see what kind of character composition and scale passive decks you find most powerful and interesting. The big thing that got me interested in Grand Guilds, compared to its immediate competition, is that you're not really worried about ending every fight at the highest possible HPH, or trying to minimize resource use, or something like that. An individual battle might take like 2 to 8 minutes, in which all you need to worry about is just winning, and that grants a sort of relaxing simplicity, where you aren't always obsessing over, but can I optimize this turn? More gameplay. Grand Guilds is a tactics game, with a focus on selecting the right units, the right cards for set units decks, and the right cards in battle. In order to achieve success in battle, Grand Guild starts slowly introducing the player to every one of its mechanics at a steady pace, so that they can fully understand the options they have available before and during a battle. Combat is grid-based and also possesses multi-level terrain, which can factor into damage dealt in the reach of sim attacks. The core of it is the very fast turnaround in battles. You'll often find that early game means turn 1, and mid-game means turn 2, and that's very much to the game's advantage. Rather than single, long battles with slogs full of back and forth healing, you'll do larger numbers of more tightly paced battles. A good team clicking together will make that fact clear very quickly, and it means that you'll have a chance to try out a lot of different variations and see what kind of character composition and scale passive decks you find most powerful and interesting. The big thing that got me interested in Grand Guilds, compared to its immediate competition, is that you're not really worried about ending every fight at the highest possible HPH, or trying to minimize resource use, or something like that. An individual battle might take like 2 to 8 minutes, in which all you need to worry about is just winning, and that grants a sort of relaxing simplicity, where you aren't always obsessing over, but can I optimize this turn more? You only have a 90-degree camera turn to work with, so environmental design attempts to avoid obscuring characters, though this doesn't always work perfectly while in a skirmish. Each character has a set amount of action, or mana points income, outfitted with a basic movement and attack option that cost 1 and 2 points, respectively. You'll draw a single card each turn, but you start with a hand of 4, which means you can easily exhaust your specialized options if you keep using more than a card per turn. This is meant to be mitigated by your basic commands. However, that being said, each character's primary's utility comes from their deck build, so you'll want to play your cards wisely. Outside of battle, you'll have the opportunity to take on side quests scattered across the world map, which amount to a number of more formulaic skirmishes and rarely possess an objective other than rooting the enemy the side. Quests are not lacking in strategic consideration and substantial reward. However, as every quest rewards the player with an in-game currency used to purchase new cards from a store of options. In the Customization tab, players can view all currently available in-lock cards. For a single character, however, this in-game currency is shared across all purchases, and some lock cards can fetch a pretty price. You'll need to do some saving, which prevents players from investing in broken deck build. In the early game, there are some characters who demand more options than others, however, and the game, fortunately, allows the player to craft a number of custom decks per character, in case you'd like to make slighter, drastic variations to the basic setups. Further complicating this are each character's passive skills, which come on a separate page and possess their own unique form of equipment currency. Some of these options cost more than 1 slot on a character's list of passive skills, and you're only granted an additional slot every 5-level game. This might seem dizzying, but it also allows for a very impressive degree of customization until your options start getting out of hand. Grand Guild's narrative is a mixed bag of tropes. and odd moments of world building, resulting in a mishmash of fantasy elements that are united by some pretty grand guilds, I suppose. The reason for the existence of these guilds is explained in the opening cinematic, and though the plot is initially triggered by a violent attack upon a guild, it never feels as if this element is essential to the plot, only allowing the protagonist Eliza a reliable pottery of allies to call upon for combat purposes. It does make for a nice Final Fantasy-like alliteration and logo, however. Characters bounce off one another with brief and stilted lines of dialogue that comprise lengthy, text-based cutscenes. The end result is awkward conversation that once again leans upon the basic personality traits of each character rather than nuanced depth. Though protagonist Eliza is given a tragic backstory, it only seems to fuel her desire to protect, as she maintains a no-nonsense, incurred demeanor. Otherwise, the guild setting might be the best excuse for such a varied collection of playable characters, as those who fall in with Eliza clash in terms of personality incessantly. In the end, Grand Guilds doesn't offer much in the way of compelling dialogue or narrative, but this is made up for somewhat with the game's aesthetics. While the 3D character models are nothing all that impressive, the game features a very distinct art style that feels wholly original and favors the unique character designs. Each character's appearance matches their personality traits rather well, and this is further enforced by a few voice lines for each party member. These clips manage to fit the age and tone of each character, as well as the aesthetic of the world. Unfortunately, the game's lackluster character models are paired with some equally disappointing animations. The game's running animations feel slow to start up, and the animation effects either trigger too quickly or come across too flat on the Switch. Even in dock mode, this is unfortunate, as there are some genuinely cool animations present here, such as Eliza's powerful downward slash and taking a look at videos of the game on the Switch eShop. In the game's Steam page, it seems they are running some stronger performance build of the game. Things are, unfortunately, a bit too awkward to sell the game's epic premise, though it is important to understand that the game has been developed by a small and extremely ambitious studio, Grand Guild. Systems offer a great deal of promise at first, but progressing further into the game reveals some problematic storytelling elements that end up muddying the experience. The game often limits certain party members from joining story quests, which means your favorite characters and the ones you may have invested the most time and money in order to make dangerous might not even be able to come along for the ride. Experience is not shared across the entire party, which means that this problem can only become greater as you're forced to limit your preferences when your squad can only run 3 characters.